Welcome to LaughNapkin. Today I have two stories for episode 24 of r/EntitledParents. So hit that thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and let's get into it. Entitled Kid tries to trade me his rental French horn for my own personal one. This happened back in my freshman year of high school, back when I was younger and more easily intimidated. The only reason this didn't go south was because of a good friend of mine. Me, proud French horn player. EK Entitled Kid. EM Entitled Mom. F Friend, who is still an awesome friend years later. Anyone who has ever done middle or high school band is probably familiar with the idea of instrument rental. You might be able to buy your kid a basic trumpet, clarinet, or snare drum, but you don't need to spend a ton of money on more expensive instruments. My school system had 4 high schools under the same system. If there was a demand or surplus in one school, the instruments would change schools until everyone was satisfied. In middle school, I was pretty good at the trumpet already. Back in the last state I lived in, band started in 5th grade, but in my new home, it started in 6th grade, so I was a year ahead of the average. I could play my scales and sight read. So my band teacher let me try a harder instrument, and I was the only French horn player. Ever since then, I stuck with the instrument. I borrowed from the school and could tell that many a student had used it before me. My dad promised me that if I could make the all-state auditions in the 7th grade year, no matter what seat, he would buy me my own French horn for 8th grade. I got second to last chair, but my dad was already thinking about letting me earn the instrument anyway if I didn't make it. I worked so hard. It wasn't new, he had bought it on eBay, but it was a double French horn, which meant that it had a thumb trigger to activate another set of tuning pipes for the rotors. Usually you use the trigger for the lower registers as the tuning changes. It was silver in color, and the previous owner had kept it in good shape. I was so pleased with it, and my teacher said I was getting pretty good on it. When I went to high school, I was introduced to the mellophone, which is basically the marching band version of a French horn. But since I was only going to use it for marching band, we chose the sensible rental option. Usually, the higher seat you were, the better choice you got for instrument, which meant that as a freshman, I was left with a rinky-dink that still sounded okay, but had been bent before and fixed. I was fine with the system, knowing that I would get better and next year I could get the one that wasn't so bad. It was when we were moving to concert band that the drama started. Depending on your skill level, there were 2 band classes. One mostly filled with freshmen, sophomores, and juniors who weren't all that good, and the other was filled with juniors, seniors, and the occasional sophomore who was better than good. There was a similar system. You tried out for chairs, and based upon the order of the chair, you got to select the school instrument. I had my own, which I polished up nice and shiny for class. Entitled Kid had gotten first chair in class, and most of the school rentals were brass in color, while mine was silver. There were a couple double French horns, though most were single. On our first day of concert band class, he sees me in the middle chair of 5 and asked why he wasn't allowed to play that one. I explained to him that I owned this one, and he didn't want to believe me. After the teacher verified that it was mine, the kid subsided, but not for long. I got approached one day at the end of class by the entitled kid with a grin on his face. I talked to the teacher, and he said that we can trade French horns. He said that the first chair should have the best one. Sorry, but my dad would be pissed if I gave away the instrument. It wasn't cheap. Even a used French horn was a pricey investment, and my dad had impressed on me the value of this thing. That doesn't matter. The teacher said you can just borrow the school one, and he'll pay you back for any damages to yours at the end of the year. He was a junior, and I was an easily impressed freshman, but I still resisted and told him that I'd need the teacher to tell me all this. He wasn't having any of it, and tried to grab the case out of my hand. Come on, dude. He already said it's okay. He's gonna give you a failing grade if you don't give it. I held onto the case with a death grip and began shouting. It's high school, so shouting was kind of par for the course, but the teacher only let the shouting go on for a few seconds before he realized it wasn't normal high school horseplay. When he came out, he demanded to know what was going on. Entitled Kid shouted, "He's stealing my French horn and hurting me," despite the fact that my case had silver Sharpie all over it with drawings and my name written on the side. The teacher had seen me with the French horn and knew that I had signed a sheet of paper saying that I was not renting an instrument. He was no dummy. The teacher broke us up and sent Entitled Kid to the principal's office. I figured that would be the end of it and figured he'd get in trouble. He did, and was suspended for a day, for which I was grateful. When he came back, he would give my case an envious look, so I decided it would be prudent to hide my French horn. My friend knew what was up, and he suspected that the kid was going to make off with my instrument, possibly steal it, but just as likely to take it and break it. Who knew? Friend played tuba, which was made of fiberglass. All the brass ones were at a different school, and it was common practice to just place the whole tuba in the locker instead of in the case in the locker. Friend told me to start putting my silver French horn in his case and to take my empty French horn case to my locker like it was in there. I came back to pick up my instrument at the end of the day and found the case was missing. After a quick look around the building, Friend found it behind the band building smashed to pieces. I still don't know if he thought my horn was in there when he damaged it, or if he damaged it because he opened it and found it wasn't in there. Still, we reported it to the teacher. Bless this school for their cameras. They didn't have cameras everywhere, but there was one behind the band building meant to watch an entrance to the football field, but it caught Entitled Kid tossing a wrecked case behind the building and stomping on it. I was brought into an after-school meeting with me, my parents, the band teacher, principal, Entitled Kid, and his mother. I had no idea what she's been told up to this point, but I figured that Entitled Kid was going to be smacked around by his mother halfway through the meeting. Oh boy, was I in for a story. She thought I was in trouble, and that her son was called in as a witness. According to Entitled Mom's understanding of the story, I had stolen one of the school French horns, trying to claim it belonged to me, and her son was trying to report me to the band teacher. I had covered up my crime to the point where even the band teacher believed the horn belonged to me. Entitled Kid tried to be cool and tried to trade horns with me so that he could bring me to justice somehow, and that I refused and threatened to smash his horn up and blame it on him. When he went to go reclaim the stolen horn like a pro, he found that I sold the horn and left the case, and that I was going to have to pay the school thousands, yeah, they aren't cheap, of dollars for a replacement. By this point, Entitled Kid looks embarrassed because he knows his story is full of holes. As the truth was explained to the Entitled Mom, she changed gears. Well, why couldn't that freshman just trade instruments then? Why did he have to go and frame my son? She was still trying to make her son the victim of all this. When it was explained that he would not be welcome in the band anymore, she tried to accuse the teacher of inhibiting his music career and that she would sue. This is where my dad, who had been patiently waiting for a chance to speak, cuts in. You're just lucky my son hid the horn from your son, or you'd be the one paying for a new horn. By the way, you can purchase a new case by next week, and I promise not to take you to court for damages. Entitled Mom could not believe the accusations against her son, and when shown the video, she huffed and said it was probably staged. This was 1999, so Photoshop was not a common accusation yet. By the end of it, the school ended up buying me the case. Not a great one, but it did the job. Entitled Kid was suspended for a month and later expelled for stealing school equipment in his new class in drama. I thought drama would have been a great class for him to take instead, considering. I don't care if you're living here. My daughter wants to rent. As with many folks, I didn't think I had anything to contribute here. But when I actually read the sign on our front door for the first time in months, I remembered a good one. My wife and I moved to Mississippi after getting married. She's a native and I'm from out of state. We met online and had a wedding in my hometown. She had a full ride and assistantship in Mississippi State, so it didn't make sense to have her give that up. We were fortunate in that her grandfather had an extra property he wasn't using, and he lets us stay there rent-free. It's a crap shack in the middle of the woods that was built by an idiot who has no business playing with Legos, much less building an actual structure. But hey, it's free. I can only complain so much. My wife's schedule varies greatly day by day, which saw her alone at the house while I was working when the entitled mother shows up. EM entitled mother. W wife. GIL grandfather-in-law. So my wife's hanging out in the living room, doing some work before she has to leave for class, when she hears someone drive up. Our house is really out of the way, so we don't get guests. She was going to get her handgun when she realizes a slightly older lady walk by the window. Not seeing a threat, she went and answered the door when the knock came. Wife, can I help you? Entitled mom, yes, I wanted to talk about renting this place for my daughter. Wife, oh, sorry, but me and my husband are living here. Entitled mom, well, my daughter is in college and she needs a place to stay. Wife, well, that's great and all, but like I said, I live here. Entitled mom, I was hoping to talk to grandfather-in-law. Wife, getting irritated, no, the house isn't for... Entitled mom, I know him personally. You see, I wanted to talk to him about renting. Wife, I don't care if you know him. Your daughter can't stay here. My husband and I live here. What aren't you getting about that? Entitled mom, young lady, I'm sure grandfather-in-law won't appreciate that you're talking to me like this. Wife, I'm sure my grandfather won't give a damn that I told you your daughter is gonna have to find another place to live. Entitled mom looks shocked at the mention that grandfather-in-law is actually my wife's grandfather and she wasn't some random squatter living in the house. She huffs, turns on her heels, and goes back to her car. My wife goes back inside and uses a sturdy note card to create a sign that is taped to our door to this day. We are not and will not be renting. Management. Edit. Getting a lot of questions about why my wife went to grab her gun. We live in a very isolated area outside a small, poor town. You have to go out of your way to get to our house, and the only people who visit us are in-laws. They do so very rarely and always call before coming. Someone driving up to our house is suspicious for these reasons. We're not preparing to take shots at first sight of movement, we're just being prepared in case the worst comes about. Well, that about wraps it up. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button and bell. By the way, I just started a Discord server for anyone looking to be part of the LaughNapkin community. Link in the description below. See you next time.